Hey everybody, it's Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor. Are you tired of direct express clients? Are they making you go crazy? Are you wondering how you can deal with them and possibly make them a profitable section of your final expense business? If this fits the bill for you, then I'm going to give you 5 tips that I have used in my own insurance production, as well as training my agents on how to more effectively deal with direct express. So the one thing about direct express that I'll come out and say right out the gate is that direct express is very frustrating. There's no doubt about it. Most of the persistency problems in this business usually associate or revolve around a direct express type of client, or somebody who just doesn't have a traditional way of paying for premiums. And so it can cause a lot of consternation, frustration with agents. And my goal here today is to try to give you some ideas and strategies, generic and specific, to help you make the most out of your direct express clients. So first of all, if you're new to Final Expense, direct express, if you saw my thumbnail, it's this green card where Social Security disability recipients and some retirees receive their income, where they receive their checks from the government. Why this exists? It's actually a unique little niche in the bank deposit business. There's a lot of people that cannot get a normal bank account because they blew through their money, they owe a bank money, but they've got to get their checks from the government deposited on an account. It is law now that if you receive Social Security or disability, they will not, under most circumstances, send a check direct to the recipient, because there's people who are drug addicted that know grandma gets her check on the 3rd of the month, and they go grab it and then go buy, prescription drugs and meth and whatever else. It sounds horrible, but that's a big reason why. There's a lot of theft and abuse of the elderly. So now they get it directly to their account. But a lot of these people had always operated without an account. They just were cash and carry. They got paid every Friday. They went down to the Walmart and got money orders, paid for the bills like that. Now they're forced to have and deal with a bank account. So kind of one of the things I'm painting the picture for you here is that the person who has a direct express card is an atypical client, in the sense that they're not very good with money. They're not accustomed to the normal operating procedure you and I are used to, which is you pay for things on an automatic basis. You at least watch your bank account and make sure that you're not overspending. And just because you write a check doesn't mean that that money instantly disappears. So there's a lot of financial behavioral traits that are negative with the direct express client. And so keep this in the back of your mind as I describe this, because you really need to understand that to understand why I make these suggestions here. And so let's jump in. So the first tip here is to make sure you sell appropriately. Because of what I described about how the typical direct express client is and how they think and how they behave, it's really important to affect and alter how you sell the premium to them. So you don't want to be high pressure. You don't want to be pushy. You want to make sure they can find something that's very easily affordable. I would go so far as to even say, offer premiums that are less than the number that they gave you. Again, this may sound a little out of tune, but if you've ever dealt with direct express over a continual period of time, a lot of the times these policies lapse more often than a checking account or savings account does. And so you've got to take special care to make sure what they're paying for is affordable. So alter how you sell. Make sure you give them different priced options. I think the best thing you can do is show them a good, better, best option within a price range they're comfortable with, even showing them a little bit less, because you want to make sure whatever you sell sticks and is actually going to be there, so you continue to get paid and so they have coverage too. Point number 2 is you got to be very careful as to what you sell. It's very important that you find a plan that will actually provide comprehensive coverage. Sometimes there are policies out there that will pay or charge higher for the client if they end up getting a Social Security direct express payment set up. So again, people who receive direct express usually are disabled. They're much more sensitive to pricing. So make sure you shop around, get them a good deal on the coverage you provide them and not overcharge them. So now let's talk about that was more the generic recommendations I make to everybody when it comes to getting a direct express or getting any kind of client and how to sell. Now let's talk about some specifics. So I'm a big advocate that if you're going to do direct express, you have got to put the majority of your clients with direct express on a carrier that offers what's called Social Security benefit draft authorization. So let me explain to you how this works. Most carriers, and I don't know why most carriers do this, it's silly. You can easily set this up nowadays, and it makes such a huge difference, as you'll find out, in the quality of business. Most carriers allow the agent and the client to define a specific numerical date to draft the insurance premium. Usually in the future, days 1 through 28 of the month. Whatever of those days you want is fine. And whatever date that falls on, they'll draft the money. There are some exceptions to that. The first exception is if the numerical date falls on a weekend, the most common reason, or a holiday. So if the third of the month, probably the most common draft date that these people set up their final expense policies, falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, Social Security pays their money out early. It pays them on a Friday as opposed to waiting over the weekend. Whereas for numerical draft dates, contractually, they are required to draft on or after that date. They can't do it before. So that means since the banks are closed for drafts on Saturday and Sunday, the draft doesn't hit until Monday. Or if there's a holiday on Monday, that's happened before, it won't hit till Tuesday. So here's the important point, guys. We're taking a behaviorally tougher client to deal with, and we're giving them money early to spend over a weekend on probably things they need and things they want, and they're either going to forget or assume that their insurance premiums are taken out when they're not, when they're actually taken out on Monday. So they have more time to spend more of their money to the point where there's not money involved or in savings or in their account to cover their insurance premiums. So this is the biggest reason why this particular type of prospect not set up correctly lapses a lot more often than checking accounts. Again, it's behaviorally related. These people don't have normal checking accounts because they couldn't manage them. They were forced to take these cards, and not because they wanted them, but because the government forced them, more or less. Now, so how does this all matter to drafting? Well, if you get a Social Security deposit benefit authorization, the idea behind that is that it is based on the deposit date that you draft the card, not on a numerical date. So, for example, if the Social Security recipient is set up for the 3rd of the month, but the 3rd falls on a Saturday, their deposit goes in on Friday, the 2nd. We draft the account on the Friday. So it is a moving target dependent upon the prearranged, already understood deposit dates that Social Security puts the money down. So here's the thing in final expense, and this is true for anybody. The faster you draft the money from the date they receive their check, in the shorter period of time, the better your persistency, the better the quality of business you'll have. Again, the longer time between deposit date and draft date passes, the more often you're going to run into insufficient funds issues where the money's just not there, and then you got to go reset it and go through a lot of ordeals and service that you just don't want to have to deal with. So always draft with a carrier that offers these programs. Problem is there's not a lot of them. There's more now than there used to be, but they're available to you, and you should do it, because if you don't, what you're going to see is probably a persistency rate that's 10, 20, 30% lower than your average, depending on where you sell and how you sell and what you sell. And you're going to be just economically frustrated and just frustrated from a business standpoint too. So always use the Social Security deposit draft process. I can suggest a couple of carriers too if you'd like, and you can start with some of these. So, okay, point number 4 is you may also want to consider designating a carrier just for direct express. So some smaller companies that do a really good job of doing direct express drafts, just like I just described, will get very antsy if all you start sending these people are direct express business. And you can't blame them. They all know, every carrier knows that offers direct express or doesn't either. They know this quality of business is not very good. And so they're a little anxious when they see a block of business from an agent that's primarily direct express. What I've experienced, though, however, is that the larger companies don't really make much notice of it. So one strategy to deal with this, if you don't want direct express issues with persistency and just quality business to affect the carriers you really care about, pick a carrier that you designate as your direct express carrier. I would say there are around a half dozen carriers approximately that do direct express, and it's very easy if you just pick one of those and send that direct express to it. So obviously the cost of doing that is you may not get them the best price, you may not get them the best quality of coverage, but you'll shield the quality carriers that you really like to work with from a lower persistency and lower quality of business. Because again, a lot of these companies will manage that number, and if they see that number go south to the point of detriment to their financial goals as a company, you'll be terminated for bad business quality. So consider a direct express carrier that you just send all that business to, so that way you shield the carriers you really care about from any sort of low quality business calamity. Tip number 5 is probably the least one I would not suggest to you, but you could consider this. Just don't accept direct express altogether. It used to be easier to suggest agents not to accept direct express because it was a minority of the population that had it. But my understanding and my belief is that direct express has become much more prevalent in all areas of the country. And it will probably account for, whether you work a metro or a rural environment, somewhere between 15%, maybe 20% of your business. It can be higher in some areas. So if you begin to say no to this business, you're passing by potentially tens of thousands of dollars a year in income. Now, the thing with direct express for the most part now that's made it more palatable is that it is an as-earned only payment. If you ever write direct express, most carriers are not going to advance on that business because they've learned the hard way through tremendous chargebacks that advancing on direct express business is poor in decision making. So what you're going to end up doing is getting paid as earned, which, yeah, it's bad because you don't get the advance to help fund your leads. But in the long run, if you write this business the right way and it sticks to some extent, you're going to get paid, and you'll get paid right away in the as-earned basis. But you'll have a steady flow of as-earned income coming in to help kind of even out some of the advance ups and downs you can get if you have chargebacks and that kind of thing. So I think there is a case, maybe me personally, if you want to know what I do, I always write direct express. I've never turned down a direct express piece of business. Now, if I had lapse issues with direct express, yeah, just like every other agent that does what I do. But I don't think you should pass up on it. I mean, even if you do the math, if you write 200 pieces of business a year, your average case is $600. That's 120 grand. And let's say 20% of that is direct express. So 20% of 200 is 40 cases times 600. That's a potential of $2,400 in annualized premium for the year if you keep it all in the books. And even if half of it lapses, and that's pretty nasty, and that's if you're not using a Social Security benefit carrier, you're not doing a good job selling. If you lose half of those, that's near 100% commission. You should be more if you're really good at this business. 100% commission of $12,000. It's 12 grand, right? That you've lost out on if you said no to direct express across the board. That's a lot of money. That's a nice car payment. It's a nice mortgage payment. So for me, I don't like it. I don't like direct express per se, but I'm not going to be so bold as to leave it behind altogether. So the solution is just to have kind of a carrier that carries that, or just to deal with it and to really focus on working areas that aren't so direct express heavy and to make sure that you write business consistently. Because at the end of the day, no matter where you work and the experiences you're going through, you're going to get direct express business. It's a way of life now, and you just have to deal with it, and it's a part of the final expense business. So I hope this helps you with kind of planning out how you can deal with direct express. Again, at the end of the day, it is going to be there, and it all comes down really to how you sell and what you sell, and making sure that your selection for carriers kind of accommodates what your personal goals are and relationships are with your carriers. If you're more interested, or if you're interested in learning about what I do, if this is your first video you've seen, my name is David Duford. I own Final Expense Agent Mentor. I help agents who want to get into the final expense business. I train them, recruit them to my agency, and pair them with companies that will help them, give them the best value of coverage to their clients at the most competitive premiums. I also personally consult with my agents. I'm a very hands-on agency, helping with underwriting questions, sales questions, and just overall training. If this is something you're interested in, if this is something you're looking at and you'd like to take advantage of, go ahead and go to my website. It is feagentmentor.com. I forgot to put up all the annoying images here. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. And you can see that's my website, feagentmentor.com. Check out what I have to offer. Of course, make sure you subscribe and like this video as the image below demands you to do. And if you got any questions, you got any comments, you're always welcome to leave them below. I'm happy to interact with you if I can help you with anything at all. So in short, my name is David Duford, Final Expense Agent Mentor. We'll see you next time. Take care.